the chimney today, or I gotta put the chimney in, hopefully finish. It's gonna go right through here. So we got a metal roof up here, and we're installing our old stove that we had in the cabin. For now, it's overkill for this space. It's only 14 by 12 in here, but we're gonna put it in that corner. So instead of doing tons of measuring, I don't have my laser level with me. Trying to figure out exactly where this stovepipe is best to fit. What I'm going to do is cut a little window here, and I'm going to butt it up against the truss that is there. Just like this side, this part of the ceiling isn't done, but this one carries over through here. And I'm going to also butt it up against one of the purlings. You can see outside that bottom edge will be touching that, hopefully. And that's where I'm going to cut in my cathedral ceiling support. This right here will get flipped over and placed up inside that cavity. And then I have single wall chimney pipe, and we'll have to make adjustments as we go to try, once we place the stove where we want it. So we'll always be around the fire. We don't have to worry too much about the safety of it, but I am going to place metal in the corners here and also up the side, and that will just get blanked. Originally we were going to place the wood stove here, but that just doesn't work with furniture, because we want to put a love seat here that pulls out to a bed. And when you're sitting in here, all the seating will be on this side, and you want to look out the windows over the pond. So you want to be facing the windows and the fireplace at the same time. So this box is 12 by 12, but you have to remember that this is on an angle. So the measurements, here's my corner. I can't cut 12 by 12. I can cut left and right 12 inches, and that'll be fine, but going up, it's on an angle, so that it's going to like elongate the measurement. If I would cut 12 by 12, my box would be coming in on an angle that would be like level with the ceiling. Well, I want it level with the floor, so I'm going to have to elongate that cut. So I think I'm just going to kind of give it a rough estimate, kind of match the ceiling, the degree of that, just eye it up, and I think I'm going to come up with about 13 and a half, it looks like. So that's what I'm going to go with on my measurement, cutting up. 13 and a half up here, 13 and a half up here, still doing 12 that way and 12 that way. Pretty tight fit. Let's see kind of how level it is. It's a little crooked. So I either gotta cut a little higher there or a little lower, depending on where that purling is up in the ceiling. But it looks like it would just have to be about a 1/4 inch. Alright, so that cathedral ceiling box is a foot by a foot. So off of this edge, 6 inches would be the center of the chimney pipe hole. So I measured 6 inches over and made a line up in the ceiling, OSB. I actually put OSB on top of this. So I do kind of have purlings on the edges, but otherwise the metal roof is right on top of OSB covered with tar paper. So anyway, I measured 6 inches over, made a line up in the ceiling at 6 inches, and then that gives me the center of that hole. Then I got to figure out this way. So this from here to here is 13 and a half. I centered that, made a mark down low, and then took something straight, which happened to be this long bit, and I just held it like this with a torpedo level on it until it was touching my mark, and it was level on the ceiling, and then I had the mark on the ceiling. So I made that mark up there crossing the first mark, and then that is the center point of my chimney. And I got down, laid on the ground, put the cathedral ceiling box in, and you could tell that, you know, it's in the middle of where everything's gonna ride. Now I have to take boards, which would be 2x6s, or 2x8s. I gotta find some 2x8s, and then box the inside of this all in. So I have framing on all sides. This side is a truss, so that's already done. So I need these 3 sides, and then that'll all be solid wood around the ceiling, and I can stick the cathedral ceiling box in, and I have something solid to mount to other than just this tongue and groove here. So that's the next step. All right, now we got to cut the hole up in the ceiling, the tin on the roof, and luckily I have one of those little giant ladders, so I can make like a little walkway up top there. It works pretty good. So again, we have to make an elongated hole because the tin is on an angle, and that circle is going to be coming in level. So we got to go longer here than the width of the outside diameter of the pipe. Stick this in. So it's level. And make a line here. Then I can measure from top to down below where I want this thing to end up, and then I can transfer that to these 2 lines and cut it on the right angle. Okay, so now the box is in. All the way up inside there. And I'll screw it, and I have framing all the way around, so I can just put some screws through there. Maybe. That's gonna be the thickest part, though. It helps not to have only 3-inch screws. Where'd it go?
Cut your hand. You got it this time.
Oh, I gotta punch it or something. Need the hammer. I just took a screw and put it in the metal and hit it with the hammer. Yet because I punched it on flat. Where in the heck? I gotta punch it on an angle. Well, it's stabbing myself.
Just like butter.
I think one more should do it. It'll work. Alright, I have the Class A chimney, one piece, 3 feet, sticking from the roof down. It's laying right on the cathedral ceiling box here, and it has a band around it that with a little flange, and that is resting on this cathedral ceiling, the bottom of it. So now this adapter piece can go right inside and lock in. That's resting right on there. And then this piece fits up in there and twists. Okay, that's what we got so far. I actually forgot that I wanted to put the elbow on the bottom to kick the pipe down here, so it would be out of the way for viewing. You know, we get a pretty good view up until we sit in this corner, but it's just going to be me and my wife, so we'll probably sit here and over here, so it won't be that big a deal. So now I think I'm going to get a fire going, see how it works right now, and then warm the metal on the roof, so when I apply the high temp caulk, warm that metal a little bit on the chimney, see how it works, and then I can put the flashing boot on, which I'm not sure if it's going to work or not yet. If I got a big enough one, I might have to get a different one. But then I can caulk underneath it and lay that down, screw it all down, and then I'm going to put another section of pipe up, and then the rain cap. And then I do not have a support strap yet, but I will have to support this. I was thinking that 1 3-foot piece would be enough, and you can look in the instructions if you ever do this, but they show you how much pipe you need, different distances from the peak. I think it's got to be like 3 feet, and then there's different heights depending. But right now I can tell it's not going to draft the best because the top of it is underneath the peak. So if I put another 3-foot section on, 3-foot section, that'll be plenty for the wind to come over, and the chimney will draft really well. Makes a huge difference if the chimney is the right height when you get a good draft, on how easy it is to build a fire in the stove, and you can kind of regulate it better. So we'll get this fire going.
And show them how to twist the paper, not crumple it.
You have to twist it to simulate kindling. There we go. Right in. And you don't use the glossy pages. Or the funnies.
You can take one for the team. Is that enough paper in there?
I'm gonna screw it on.
Got one more baby piece. I need matches for fire. Big day. Big morning.
I can't remember, this one's pulled out or in.
All the way out is open.
Do you want to clean this?
Not this time around because I was just getting too close to the bottom stuff. I'll have to hit it next time.
So we have a red squirrel problem. About 2 months ago they started chewing on this, and they've never done it before. This place has been here, I think it was built in the early 2000s. I think it's because we put a bird feeder here, and we got more and more red squirrels coming. So anyway, they chewed into here, which is just a small area where they can get into, that's insulated, and it's not in the house. There's just a pocket right there. So they have a hole here, and I put a 2x4 over, and they chewed this and got in. So then I flipped it over, and then they've chewed through that and got in again. So now they keep on getting in there at night and whatnot. So I was gonna shoot them, but I don't like killing things unless I eat it. So now I bought a live trap today, and within about 3 hours we already caught one. So he's going to get relocated a few miles down the road and hopefully not come back. Otherwise I'm going to have to come up with a good recipe for red squirrel or feed it to the dogs. start trimming out the inside of the cabin around the windows and everything. We're gonna make a fire right now. I don't quite have the chimney done, and my plan is to put this final piece of stovepipe on and the rain cap, and then later in the day I think it'll warm all this up where I can secure this flashing down, and the stovepipe will be high enough, the smoke will be rolling out. I don't think I'll have a problem working on this with a fire going. If I do, I'll let the fire die at the end of the day and do all this. And it'll still melt everything, and it'll be ready to caulk this down and screw it down and everything. But right now I'll show you what I have going so far. Bought this flashing kit. So this here is a shield, and these brackets go in between the Class A stovepipe and this heat shield, and then you cut this rubber flashing to fit over the heat shield. There's a couple brackets I have to put on here that they screw to the shield and then to the roof. And they say that you should have between a 1-inch gap between the shield and your framing. I'm not going to do that because I've never seen that this gets super hot enough. We already have about a little over an inch gap between the Class A stovepipe and this heat shield, and there's air moving between there. So we're not going to have fires where this is unattended, but I really don't see that this heat shield is going to get hot enough where a little 1/4-inch gap isn't going to be good enough. So I'm going to chance it. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So now what I have to do is I silicone caulk underneath here, and then use the sheet metal screws with the rubber, the same screws for the metal roofing, and I'll screw this down all the way around, and that part will be done. I have to put a mesh screen around this to keep, I assume that's to keep just bugs and stuff out of here, and then I have to put a storm collar around here, caulk around that with a high temperature caulk. That'll keep the rain off of going into that gap, and then it'll shed onto this rubber flashing and then off the roof. And then I think we'll be done. I'll probably have to do a support to the roof to this chimney also, but I'll have to see once I get this top piece on how secure it is. I think I'm gonna have to put a support on there. They didn't have one at Menards, but the reason I'm not doing it now is because it's -5 degrees. So it's just too cold right now to screw around with this. Yeah, right now it's -5 degrees, so I don't want to do this right now. I want to get a fire going, so I have a warm place to warm up, and it'll melt everything on there once I get the fire going, and then I'll be able to jump out here and do what I need to do, and if I get cold I can warm up. And then while we have a fire going, I can trim the inside of it. My wife came up with the idea to put a piece of plastic on the screen door her and her dad made, temporary door for the summertime well, now it's winter time. I still haven't built a door for this. I'm going to build it out of milled wood from the land. But I was going to hang a wool blanket on the inside, but it would have been a pain coming in and out with the tools and everything. So she's like, well, just put a piece of plastic on the thing. So, good idea to keep the heat in. Now we just gotta let this warm up. Thank God for ash trees, because I had so many projects that I never thought of or got around to splitting wood early in the spring, so we could have good wood around here to heat during the winter. I'll never make that mistake again. But we've been using ash wood, which is very dry right when you cut it. So that's what saved us, because I had some dead oak that's been laying around for years that I got from home. I brought up here to cut into firewood, and I split that up and threw that on the fire, and it just sat there and smoldered. Even being on the ground, well, off the ground a little bit as a log, it was way too wet just to split and use. It looked dry on the outside, but the middle was not. So, but this ash wood is makes all the difference in the world. So we're going through it pretty quick. Luckily, I got some more cut down, so we can, next time I'll probably have to buck some up and split it, so we can get through the winter. During the weekends we're up here. Well, I got everything done with the chimney except a support bracket, which they didn't have at Menards, so I have to pick that up. But I have the storm collar on. It's caulked with a high temp silicone, and then that rubber flashing underneath it, and that's screwed down about every inch and a half with screws all the way around, and then regular silicone underneath that. So we got that done this weekend, which is just in time for a big snowstorm tonight. I guess it's supposed to dump like 8 inches. So there won't be any snow getting into the ceiling. And then I got the trim done on the windows. All the trim done on all 5 windows. And there's like a little shelf there. And we were going to install this window, but it broke on the way up here. So this one's going to be that width and 60 inches long. It'll get down to about here. The dogs will be able to look out and freak out looking at the ducks and stuff. And then in spring I'll mill up some lumber and build a door, and then beef up this screen door a bit. And then I have to finish the ceiling, and then install that window and that window, trim around them, and we'll be done, and we can move in some furniture. So, and then finally enjoy this place.